excited to bring this guest on our show. She's absolutely amazing and you're going to love her. Let me tell you a little bit about her. She has a background in psychology with certifications in neuroscience, and she's called the modern day oracle. How cool is that? Called the modern day oracle because she has so much insight and wisdom in people's lives. She actually works with women leaders and helps them to free up themselves so that they can become more empowered in their lives. She's also a phenomenal TEDx speaker and coach. Welcome to our show, Teresa Lodato. Welcome. There she is. Oh my gosh, the amazing, the fantastic Teresa Lodato.
Gosh, that just totally started my day wonderfully. I need that every day.
I know. This is cool. I love it. I'm so glad you're here on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
We want to find out how you were able to pivot in your life or business. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I worked in financial services for over 20 years and was most recently working in private banking and investments at Merrill Lynch. And at the time, I was in a really difficult marriage. I was working extremely long hours, waking up at 3:45 in the morning, not getting to bed until 9:30 because I had a young son that I was obviously that I wanted to spend time with. And all of that together and not trusting myself and trusting and being connected to my body led me to burnout in my career. And I ended up developing a rare and serious form of migraine that causes stroke-like symptoms. And it not only ended my career, but it also ended my marriage. And so from there, that whole healing journey that I began after that, really reconnecting with my mind, body, and my soul is where the biggest pivot came. And it's what allowed me to study psychology in graduate school, do my advanced certifications in neuroscience and relational trauma, and also become an elite transformation coach for women leaders. So that was my biggest pivot.
Wow, absolutely amazing. I mean, it's amazing too, because it sounds like you've gone through a lot of pain and trauma and were able to get out of that and create something that is actually pretty amazing and pretty beautiful.
Yeah. It's something that there are so many women that struggle with their health or in their relationships, trying to balance that with their career and all their invisible stress that they're not even aware of that's going on in their lives. And so that's what makes it so much fun and also purposeful for me to do the work that I do, is because now I get to say, hey, you know what? I've been there, done that, know what to look for, know how to get out of it, know how to stop it. Let's take you down that road. So,
yeah, I know we have a similar background in the sense of who we work with, who our clients are. I mean, because I also work with high achieving women who are in that process of being burnt out, overwhelmed, totally anxious, and wanting to find the balance in all of it, if there is such a thing, right? I mean, so tell us, how do you find that? How do you find that balance?
Well, I think a big part of it, I focus so much on the invisible stress because there just isn't a lot of people talking about this. We know about the stress that we see, in our relationships, in our careers, deadlines, kids, all that stuff. We're aware of that. And we've been told for years to do self-care practices, take a vacation, all these different things, which are great. However, there are things like the stories we tell ourselves, the stories we tell ourselves of what other people are thinking about us. That was the topic of my TEDx talk. The mental and cognitive loads that we carry, decision fatigue. Oh my gosh. Between being asked to take on one more project at work and maybe having a people-pleasing relational trauma pattern that just keeps us saying yes, we don't have those boundaries in place. And it can even be as simple as coming home and having your husband or kids ask, what's for dinner? And you're just like, oh my God, I'm going to pull my hair out.
Yeah, one more thing, right?
All of those things contribute to this constant, just little shades of stress. But even if we're kind of managing everything on the surface level, it's kind of like an iceberg. The tip of the iceberg is what we're treating. But there is this whole iceberg that lays beneath the water that we're just not bringing awareness to. And so that's what I do in my work, is to help women leaders become aware, become more aware in their lives.
Wow. I mean, it's amazing what you do. I mean, I love it because again, that's a lot of what I do as well is looking at the mindset and being able to overcome those obstacles because I think a lot of it is a mindset issue, if you will, right? I think like 80% of it is a mindset kind of issue. So how do you go about working with women leaders?
Yeah, so there's a few different ways that I work with them, and it really depends on what their need is. So I'm always meeting the leaders where they are. And I think mindset is a big part of it, but I think it's also recognizing what the stories are and recognizing where you can make subtle shifts. And
Mm,
so many people are focused on either affirmations or meditations or all these different things, which are great. However, I find the most success with my clients that are able to make these little shifts. And so
mhm,
it might be recognizing verbal is one of the best ways to start becoming aware. You've got verbal, you can see what's going on in your body physiologically. You can look
mhm,
to your emotions if you're having emotional regulation challenges, or even watching your behaviors. Those are the four main ways that you can recognize when you are experiencing invisible stress. But I usually tell my clients, start with the verbal stuff. And so, there's a quiz that I use to help my clients determine what saboteurs are present in their lives. And then
mm,
from
mhm,
there, we can kind of start to work with, are you more judgmental of other people or are you more judgmental of yourself? And if you start recognizing who you are and what you are already doing, then it makes those verbal cues really easy to identify. So, for example, if you are someone who has more of a tendency to judge other people, then you are looking at words that you're saying out loud. So, you have to, you need to, you should,
mm,
I should, I need to, things like that, or always or and never, you always do this or you never do that. Those
mhm.
are all kind of red flags in my mind for saying, hey, there's a belief here that is not in alignment with who you really are. And it is a flag for invisible stress. Whereas if you are more judgmental of yourself, you may not recognize yourself saying those things out loud. You might recognize saying it in your head. And so having that awareness of where these verbal clues are is probably the first place that I start with many of my clients.
This is great. I love this. I love this. I mean, I love this topic so much because I think it's so true. It's really the stories we tell ourselves and our beliefs. So how
Mhm.
do you really get into that? I mean, in terms of the root of it, because again, like we can do, affirmations, meditations, and, gratitude. I mean, you hear all of that, right?
Mhm.
And I think a lot of times, though, it doesn't really get to the root of the
Yeah.
issue, which is really, really, again, the stories that we tell ourselves, the trauma behind it.
Yeah.
And so, how do you go in uncovering that and really getting at the root?
Yeah, that's a great question because I agree. That's typically where people focus, are all those areas that you just mentioned.
Hmm.
But I think the unique thing about what I bring to my work is that I combine both science and intuition, kind of the brain aspects of it, as well as the body and your energy. So I'm combining all three. So, I can talk to clients about what's going on in their brain and why those affirmations aren't working, or why those neural pathways are so stubborn and they're really struggling or challenged to get past them. So I can talk to them about the brain science. But then I'm also using my intuition. I'm also using my energy skills to navigate and locate where it is so that I can focus my questions in that particular area to bring that item up to the surface so that you can examine it and then have choice as to, is this something that I want to continue to believe about myself? Or is this just an outdated pattern that, my parents or my grandparents or aunts or uncles or whomever had told me that simply isn't true in my life? And once you recognize where that root is, and then start using your brain in the way that the brain is meant to work, which is, I won't get into it because we don't have nearly enough time, but there's the reticular activating system, and that's really
Mhm.
kind of the gatekeeper in the brain. And once you know how to unlock the code of that, that's when things really get magical, because then you can make those changes really quickly in your brain, and you're basically resetting your brain so that you don't have to continually face those problems. They'll come up in new ways, they'll come up from different situations, but once you've got the key to that gate, you've unlocked it. So it's
Wow,
really quite
cool.
magical.
Yeah, that is very magical. I love this about brain science and really unlocking the key. I mean, really unlocking that part in terms of your brain. That is two, one, go. So give us 3 tips, 2 strategies, and 1 action item to pivot our lives forward.
Yeah. So I've got my 3 tips are to know your stress type. So there
Mm.
are 3 different stress types that I work with clients around. I call them stressed out Sally, put it off Paulina, and then a combination of the two. So the stressed out Sally, their brain has too much norepinephrine, cortisol, too much of the stress hormones that are activated in the brain at any one time. Put it off Paulina, however, has too little of those hormones being set off when they get stressed. So
Mm.
understanding how you stress will empower you to make the changes to bring your brain back into a balanced state. So for example, if you are a stressed out Sally, if you're a workaholic, if you are constantly on the go, if you feel like you can't wind down at the end of the night and your thoughts are just rushing for you, then you'll want to do some presencing techniques. So I've got some PQ tools that I use to help people really drop in and do a practice for just 2 minutes that really develop their mental fitness. And so that is one thing that I do. If you are a put it off Paulina type, then it's more important for you to focus on what you are preferring in the moment and align it with your values, because that will encourage you to actually take action. Because the put it off Paulina types are typically stuck. They can't, they struggle to actually take action and to move forward. They procrastinate. They leave things, around for other people to take care of, even though they're really smart, strong, successful women. And then sometimes you're a combination of both. Sometimes you're stressed out Sally and sometimes you're put it off Paulina. But knowing how to reset your brain into that balanced state is my first tip. The second tip, actually, those are my 3 tips for that. Know your stress type, and then identify which one it is, and then also have have those tools to use whenever you get into that stress state.
That sounds great. So are there, I mean, because it sounds like that's kind of a extreme, if you will. Is there a kind of a balance point in between? I mean, you said that a lot of times women or people can be at, both ends of the spectrum, if you will. Do you find that they are ones that are take both in balance? Because I mean, I'm just thinking of that. I'm like, well, I can be both. I can be that person that's like really, ambitious and aggressive and like get too stressed out or overwhelmed, and then I could also go to that part that's procrastinates and doesn't take action. And so I don't know. Do you find that with women that they can be in the middle or a balance of the two, or
Yeah,
what do you
so
find?
I either see the stressed out Sally type, the put it off Paulina type, or that combination, but you are never the combination at the same time. You
Mm,
are either
okay.
in that stressed out Sally state or you're in that put it off Paulina state. And so really, if you think of it like a bell curve, that
Uh-huh.
top middle portion is really the balanced brain state. That's when you have full access to executive functioning. You have the ability to regulate your emotions. You don't have memory fog or, memory fatigue. You're able to access your creativity, have out of the box ideas when you're in that balanced brain state. But if you are too much or too little in your brain, kind of the out of balance with your brain chemicals, then you're going to be in that stress state. So identifying where you are is going to help you get back into that balanced state.
That sounds great. Yeah. So how do you go about doing that? What are your strategies for that? The two strategies.
Yeah, so well, the two strategies are for the stressed out Sally. It's using different PQ techniques. So I'm a PQ coach, and that's
Mm-hmm.
positive intelligence. And there's a couple quick ones. I maybe just have time to do one now. But if you take your thumb and your forefinger, and you just focus, you can close your eyes, and you focus all of your attention at the space where your thumb meets your forefinger, and
Mm.
just place your awareness there. Just, hold it there as long as you can. And you can even start to move your finger around your thumb. And as you do that, notice the lines that are on your finger and just follow those lines around and around. And you can even move your finger across your thumb and notice how it feels like little speed bumps. And then go back to moving your thumb around and around, almost like a labyrinth.
Mm.
Doing this practice for just 2 minutes is actually what brings you into the present moment. And neuroscientists say that being in the present moment is the best way to mitigate stress. So any practice that you can do to bring you into the present moment is what's going to help offset that stress response and bring brain back into that balanced state.
So I didn't even know you were a positive intelligence coach. I mean, that's what I'm going for actually right now. So
Oh,
I'm doing the whole
wonderful.
positive intelligence coaching, and I actually coach people right now, women, on positive intelligence. So we use the app. I use the app every day, and it's so amazing. It really is absolutely amazing. Just doing that technique like that, because a lot of times when I feel overwhelmed or stressed out, or I'm like, oh gosh, and I can see it, I can feel it right in my body. I start to do that and just being aware, and all of a sudden I start to,
Yeah.
such a
Mhm.
calming motion just doing that, right? And it's amazing how that works. And people don't, you can do that like while you're sitting, people won't even notice it because you can just do this in your chair, you
You can
know,
do it while
on
you're
your lap,
driving.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah.
it is absolutely amazing how that small technique, if you will, can really work wonders. So I'm glad you mentioned that. I didn't realize you were a PQ coach.
Oh yeah, I'm a pioneer coach. I've been part of it since the beginning. So
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
And
That's
then of
fantastic.
course from PQ, as clients start to learn and be able to bring their brain back into balance through presence exercises, then there are other practices that I can teach them that really help them to ground themselves and ground their energy on a daily basis so that they can access their intuitive gifts without being bombarded by all the stress. And once you get to that level, then you're able to create that sustainable success without all the stress.
Love it. Love it so much. That's so cool. That's like a heart in a fire. I love that so much, Teresa. That's so great. Love it. So what is one action item that we can take to pivot our lives forward?
Well, I have a new offer. It's actually something that I've done for many, many years. And now that COVID has passed, I brought it back. And it is an in-person retreat in the beautiful Sonoma wine country.
Oh,
And it's going to
cool.
take place in the middle of January. And the title of it is Release and Reconnect. So it's for
Mm.
women leaders to be able to come. You spend a week at the ranch and you get fed, you get, beautiful exercises. And it's all about addressing the pain that's inside of us that creates that invisible stress. So I have a rage workshop. I have, I have a shame play shop that I do. There's lots of different activities there. We
Uh-huh.
really dive in, release those really repressed emotions so that they're no longer stressing you out. And then in the process, you're also learning different practices and techniques so that you can experience the healing and releasing all of this past trauma so that you can actually reconnect fully with your body and plan your year out so that when you walk away, you've got a plan, you've got practices, they're easy to use, very simple, and you've already done the work with my assistance to get you to the place where you have clarity and confidence in being able to do this yourself. So I'm super excited about that.
Wow, that sounds super exciting. I want to join. This sounds really great. So you said it's in January. Again, the dates and the times and all of that.
I don't have that right now with me, but it'll be the middle of January. It is, I believe it starts the Saturday or Sunday before Martin Luther King Day. So
Okay.
we did that week so that you only have to take 4 days off from your business week. So
Oh, okay.
that's the week that it'll be, and there'll be all days. You'll stay on the ranch and everything. So it'll be a lot of fun. Wonderful,
Sounds
wonderful
like it.
food. Oh my gosh. Clients are already signing up because of the food. They know how
Yeah,
awesome the
that's
food is
great.
here.
The food always brings them in, right?
Yes.
Got to have that food in there. Sounds fantastic. I love it, especially it's in January, jumpstart your whole year in
Yes.
2025. This sounds very cool. I love it so much. And how can we find you? How can we connect with you, Teresa?
Yeah, so you can connect with me on Instagram. I've got my Becoming Aware coaching profile. I also have the Modern Day Oracle. So if you're someone who wants to know more tips about the sciencey and the practical tips that I provide, that's the Modern Day. Follow me at Becoming Aware Coaching. Whereas if you're more into the spiritual stuff or you want to know how you can start using your brain, leveraging it in a way to be able to access your innate gifts and strengths, then follow me on the Modern Day Oracle, also on Instagram. You can also follow me on LinkedIn, and the best place to reach me is my website if you're interested in any services.
Sounds fantastic. I love it so much. Anything else that you want to add that I didn't ask you or questions I
Yeah,
didn't ask you? Yeah.
I think the most important thing is to recognize that invisible stress affects all of us. It
Mm,
even affects men.
yeah.
And even though I don't primarily work with men, there are some men that I work with. Primarily it's women, but just recognizing it and then taking the steps to clear the invisible stress and create practices that are meaningful in your life that you can maintain. I think
Mhm.
that's the biggest challenge, is that people hear all these great ideas to do things, but if you don't take consistent action, you're not going to change anything. So I think that's one of the most powerful things about my retreat, is that you get in the practice of doing these small things, and then you're supported afterwards so that you can maintain them. And man, I mean, I've had clients go from, almost being fired to making club in the same year as far as
Oh,
sales.
wow. That's awesome.
I've
That's
had
amazing.
a woman that worked in finance who almost left her career. She was kind of being, I don't know, shut down by all the invisible stress that was going on in the office. And once she learned how to change that for herself, she ended up being promoted to CFO. So this
Wow.
has
That's incredible.
incredible, incredible benefits. And so I'm on a mission to eradicate the invisible stress for 10,000 women. So I'm looking for people to work with to get me to that goal.
Amazing. I love it, love it, love it. That's a heart and a fire right there. That is so cool, Teresa. I love it. I love what you're doing. I really love what you're doing. Appreciate you so much for being on our show and giving us all these tips and strategies and tools and techniques. And go to Teresa's website and go to her retreat. I mean, this just sounds
Come to the
amazing and
retreat. It will
phenomenal.
be so relaxing, and you'll be
Yes.
restored and realigned for the whole year.
Sounds like it. Like I said, I'm in. I want to go on this one. This sounds great. So thank you again, Teresa, for being on our show. We really appreciate you. And thank you to you watching our show. We're here every Tuesday, 10 o'clock Pacific time, 1 o'clock Eastern time, and really value your viewership. We're up to 40,000 viewers. Our E360 TV channel is of 1.5 million viewers. We just made it 1.5 million. Like, woohoo for that. That's so great. We're just so happy and excited about that. And again, it's all about the stories we tell ourselves, the beliefs that we have, and really taking action to build that sense of momentum. Live life abundantly. Pivot now. Change and shift your energy. Pivot